Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Street Photography Podcast with Warren C. I want to thank everyone for all the love you guys have shown me with the views that you've given me on the podcast series as it is played on my YouTube channel, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and I believe Google Play as well is what I feed to as well. I want to thank, again, everyone for listening. I especially want to thank everybody that does comment and provide information or requests for content on something related to the topics that we go through on the Street Photography Podcast episodes. I want to say again, just as a recap, what Street Photography Podcast is about with me, Warren C, is everything and anything around street photography. We tend to tackle some topics and we go over things in those topics, and I look to basically get you guys thinking about those things in the topics and comment for sure. We start off with a trend that I see that is happening in street photography, or one maybe in photography that I think can be utilized in street photography. So we'll talk about trends that are happening, trends or something I think should be trending or maybe shouldn't be trending, and when it comes to street photography. The next part of the podcast, we'll talk about who you repping, which is one of my favorite sections of the podcast. And in that, we basically talk about a street photographer from a city that you rep or want to rep, and basically let everybody in the community know about the street photographers that you follow that inspire you. I do the same with going over street photographers in the cities that I want to rep for the podcast episode and how they inspire me. I talk about their work and what about their work that inspires me, and then how I can use that in increasing my style of street photography, enhancing it, getting the content I want to get. And also I look for folks that bring somebody to me to look at to let me know how those folks definitely will inspire you or what you get from them as you enhance your street photography. Then we go into a segment on gear, everything and anything around gear and how it pertains to street photography, how we would utilize it, how I think we should utilize it. You let me know how you think we should utilize it and so forth. And whether that's about cameras, whether that's about lens, whether that's about the type of medium you may use, digital versus film, whatever, gear, right? To help us be able to get the images that we want to create, help us with our creative side and being able to get the content that we are going after. And then we finish up with a Q&A section where either I answer questions provided by you via, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up, which is Warren C on Instagram, hit me up on the podcast for those who are viewing this or going through this on the YouTube channel, hit the comments and so forth. And then for those of you who are, again, listening to this via the audio podcast, and I believe there's a video podcast play with Spotify, hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think about the questions and what you might, again, want me to ask. And generally, I will also, for the community, will ask a question for you guys to think about, and hopefully you hit me in the comments with what your answers are. So that is Warren C Podcast and how it breaks down and how we go about talking about everything and anything around street photography. So for today's trending, or this episode's trending, as to say, as I look at my notes, I had to think about this one, and because I'm a creator, right? I create for YouTube. I'm not going to say I'm an influencer. I generally don't do a whole lot of gear reviews and stuff like that on my channel, because I want to make sure whatever it is I may review, I use, and that I think you would use in street photography and helping you get to your stuff. I create content though in and around street photography. So this one I had to think about, and as I look at my notes, and I was like, is this trend worthy? Should it be a trend? Should video capture be a trend in street photography? Now, generally, the word itself tells you that maybe no, right? Street photography. And so you wouldn't say street videography. That's a whole nother thing, right? But it is doing, in essence, the same thing as you would do with taking an image. You're creating content using video. as a YouTube creator, I do both, of course, to be able to create content for what it is that I'm trying to get out in that particular video release for the community and for my channel. But as I look at videography and how videography has changed with the advent of TikTok and shorts and reels, short form video, if you will, it had me wondering about, as a street photographer, would you also do video captures? Short form video, or even long form video, you get in, you might as well call that a movie, right? But short form, 90 seconds or less. Would you put that out there like we would put out there for photography, but it's capturing something happening on the street? It had me thinking, and I want you guys to think about it, even as you hear me pausing here. What is it about video and photography that would make it that bad of a thing if it was something we started seeing more of? It's happening right now, literally right now, but no one really calls it out. Use of your smart device, a lot of people do video captures all the time. Again, with the advent of TikTok and social media and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, Facebook Stories, I didn't forget about that one. Before then, you had the ability with other stuff as we got to where we are today to capture video, short form video, to tell a story. And that's ultimately what we're looking at with photography, right? Especially when it comes to street photography. I'm capturing what's in front of me. I'm capturing the story in front of me. And hopefully I'm doing a good job in a single image or a couple of images to capture and illustrate and then show the story to those that will view that content. Video will do it too. A 90-second video will show a good chunk of a story that you might want to capture on the street that you now can go ahead and share on social media the same way you would share a photo on the street, to the point that people will incorporate them together. I know I've done it where I've shown a short form video and added some photos with it and threw it on my Instagram reel to show people about a moment in time that happened that was captured with two different forms of media capture, video and stills photography. It helped me in a lot of ways too, looking at how I actually go about and doing that now too, is as far as capturing the video, and then it has translated over into me capturing my stills images for street. I look at, hey, what's the story I see here? Does it make sense to capture the story with a set of images, or does it make sense to capture the story with a short form video? It helped to train my eye to some extent on the story I see unfolded in front of me, and then deciding what's the best way to capture it. Again, as a content creator for YouTube, I will take images and video as quickly as I can, and I have my cameras set up for me to do that, to be able to bring that story together in my YouTube videos that I release. And it's all centered around street photography. So that's one thing I've gained from at least doing YouTube, and I can see people have gained themselves from doing short form video for social media. The training of the skill set of being able to tell the story with video and translate that over into me being able to tell stories better with my images, because basically all video is a continuous blast of images that show movement, right? 30 frames a second. That's literally 30 images per second, technically, right? So, what are the other advantages of it though that helps you out? I look at lighting differently now, because lighting for video is definitely similar to lighting for images. But that wonderful word everybody's using now, and it's another trending term that also has influenced photography, especially when it comes to street photography, cinematic, right? I want my lighting, my scene, I want to try to capture it as cinematic as I can. And that's translated over into my image taking as well. What's the lighting like? Is there a mood that I'm trying to get to? Or do I see, am I going to capture that mood correctly when I take this image? Because if not, I'm gonna take a video so I can go back later and combine that video with the image to help tell a better story. So what do you guys think? Do you think video captures, we'll say 90 seconds or less, do you think video captures should be something that we see more of? Or we already seeing it, we just haven't recognized it? Is it a trend? Is it trending for street photography? It's definitely trending for sure when it comes to social media, but people are doing it everywhere, on the street, this, that, and the other, at events. They're capturing what's happening in front of them, the moment. They're capturing the moment in the form of video now instead of stills, so they can tell a better story of what they captured and give the viewer a better opportunity of understanding what's going on. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. This is a good one. I didn't really think about it until I sat and watched a couple of YouTube videos recently talking about getting that cinematic look in your photography images. And I said, you know, it's funny, where did that come from? Cinema, right? Video, movie taking, telling that story with moving pictures, right? And how does that translate to street photography? And is it a trend? Yeah, I think it's a trend. I think it's trending. I think it's trending now, and we just don't see the same perspective being brought to it other than its use in social media. But it's definitely trending, and more professionals now are more hybrid shooters because of being able to provide that motion picture service video for their customers, as well as the stills images. So again, hit the comments, let me know what you guys think about that. I like to see what everybody's perspective is. So that is the first topic, or first segment that we went over, trending. The next one is, again, who you repping. And you know, last couple of episodes, you know, I've had a personal attachment to the person I'm repping because of, one, where I grew up, and two, because of how their images got me going into the world of photography, how much that it helped me in understanding when you use color versus when you use black and white to tell the story, to drive the emotion, to get you focused more on what the photographer wants you to focus on to help understand the story that they're trying to tell. And for this one, we're gonna go back to my home city where I grew up, you know, New York City, and we're gonna rep Brooklyn. We're gonna rep Brooklyn with Mr. Bruce Gilden. And Mr. Bruce Gilden, and I'm gonna read my notes here so I don't jack this up like normal. I'm gonna read a little caption about Mr. Bruce Gilden so you guys can understand who he is. He was born in 1946. He is an American street photographer. He is best known for his candid close-up photos of people on the street of New York City using a flash. So that should hopefully give everybody an idea of who I'm talking about, and the type of images that Bruce took, and the type of controversy that has happened with some other type of another photographer a few years back. I can't remember his name. Pretty much following the same style, you know. And he has been Mr. Gilden has a various amount of books of work that he's published. He has received the European Publishers Award for Photography. He is a member of the Magnum Photos since 1998, and he was born in Brooklyn, New York. And he's still alive. He's still alive. He has an active, Instagram account. I believe the account is managed by his team, and images are uploaded regularly from work he's done. He's still out shooting, and he gets up close and personal. Mr. Gilden would be a person that went after intrusive style of street photography. He is going to interrupt the scene. He is going to get up close and personal, interrupt the scene, and cause a reaction, and he's capturing that reaction. In a lot of cases, he captured it with flash too, which really would elicit a reaction from the subject. People generally is who he took pictures of, and made for some pretty interesting photos. So now, as far as books, you know, it's New York. So the book I have, of course, is centered around New York, and it's his book, Facing New York. And this book is a classic example of his style of photography, where he literally got up close and personal in people's faces and took pictures. And at times, a lot of times, especially in his book, he used flash. One of his famous images, and it's in this book, is the one with the Asian gentleman, where the guy was lighting a cigar or cigarette for the other person, and he got up right in the guy's face and took an image, and it's fantastic. He had no issues doing so, and became well known for it, of course. As I flip through the book, which I think this book is great, how they did the book. In a lot of cases, they've made an image both pages, so when you open the full open spread, and again, you can see in this particular image, you know, there's a conversation going on, and he jumped right in there and took an image with the lady giving him this look. I can imagine that he got a lot of negative responses after the image was taken. And with this style of intrusive street photography, you got to be ready for that, and be ready for whatever the end result could be, right? From possibly physical confrontation because of jumping in somebody's face and taking an image, and you know, things not ending the way you might want. But again, his images, based on the way he did it, captured some serious responses. Like in this image right here, and as I get a little closer, it's a little blurred out, or it's got some motion blur in it. And that's because, again, he, in this particular one, and like some of the images he took, you know, it was night or low light. He's using a flash. The shutter speed for film, and I believe this one was shot with a lot of film. You know, generally sync speed is around 1/60th of a second. So you're gonna get movement if a person is moving. And it also added to the photo and the uniqueness of his style of photography. This particular book is black and white. And as I said a few minutes ago, what I like the most about this book is that with the black and white, you really focus on things. You look to see what type of response that he got, and what was it that hopefully drew him to taking that image of the persons. And you also get to see how close he got to these folks and took these images, you know. And I think the blur from the movement with using a flash really adds to the moment. I can see the clear expressions of folks in this image from how they reacted or didn't react to his photos. So now you guys know, for me, I am not an intrusive style of street photographer. I do my best not to interrupt the scene. I do my best not to get so close that I cause the subjects, in this case, say people, to react to me. I don't want that. I want to be kind of invisible, if you will, like Bruce Davidson, right? I want to be able to go somewhere, even when it feels like I shouldn't be there, but be invisible and be able to get my images and capture the moment as it is, uninterrupted, right? Unobtrusive photography, candid, right? So when I look at Bruce and his work and the style of photography he does right now, I have to honestly say what I do like is the fact that he got guts. Sometimes you gotta have some guts to get out there and shoot, and especially when it's taking pictures of people, you gotta be at a certain level, have enough guts, machismo, whatever it is, to be able to sometimes get closer than you may want to and get an image, get a good image. I do that. Again, I do my best to be unobtrusive about the scene and get that image. But there's times I've gotten super close with my camera to people and taken an image, which but still didn't interrupt the scene, right? So I wouldn't quite say it was intrusive as Mr. Gilden is, but it didn't interrupt the scene. Usually if I'm that intrusive, I'm actually asking for a photo which of a person. And that's to me about the closest I would get. I do like his use of black and white in this image so that it really highlights what you might want, what the subject is, what he was wanting to draw your eye to. Color would have been good, but I don't know how much color would have helped with the motion in these images, especially in low light. Color, I think, would have detracted a little from it, would have had you looking for things, looking for emotion, looking for what, like the color of the outfits and stuff like that, other than the fact of the actions of the people and what they were doing at the time he interrupted the scene and took the picture. So when it comes to me and Mr. Bruce Gilden, you know, I love his work. I love his guts. I love the machismo and getting these images. I love the fact that he's still alive right now and that he's still taking images and getting out there and doing his thing. Just again, it's not my style of photography, but I do love the images he's gotten, the reactions that he's gotten. It does also act as an educational tool for me in the sense that, you know, one day I might get to the point where I want to use flash in low light at night in the street. And, you know, how am I going to go about doing that unobtrusively, right? What's the best way to do it? How am I going to capture these images? Maybe it might not even be images of people, just because I might not want to interrupt the scene. Or I might get gutsy enough one day and be a little intrusive and jump in front of people's faces and get some close-up shots, you know, maybe during the day, and not really startle the hell out of them with using a flash. So that's who I'm repping in this episode, Mr. Bruce Gilden. Definitely check out his Instagram. I'll have it in the comments so you guys can go to his page. Check out some of his work for sure. Are you an intrusive style of street photographer? Let me know in the comments. And again, guys, let me know who you repping. Let me know who you want me to talk about on the channel. And let me know who you repping. For the next episode, I actually got a person that that was brought to my attention by somebody in the comments. So we're gonna have a person that is being repped by Mr. Michael Gilly 888, if I'm saying that right, or BB, nope, 88. He reached out on YouTube on the last episode and talked about who he liked to rep. So we're going to make sure we get that out on the next episode. Thank you, Michael, for the comment and the reasons why you want to rep him. Again, we'll get that out on the next episode. And you can see why Michael wants to get out there and shoot. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our next topic here. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I'm getting this right. So when it comes to gear, like I said, for the street photography and the podcast, and we talk about everything gear, right? I want to make sure that, you know, we look at those things that help us get our creative machismo going and capture our images while we're out there on the street. And we want to discuss gear in every aspect, from the pluses to the minuses. And with all the recent camera updates and all of the new camera releases, whether that's film, whether that's digital, one of the things that people will focus on is autofocus. I shoot Fuji and Nikon. We know Fuji right now is having some issues with their autofocusing system for continuous focusing. They've had a number of firmware updates for their most recent processor. I believe it's a processor generation number 5, I think is what they're on. And I have the XH2S, which I'm filming on right now. I have the X106. Also got the update, and some other cameras that are on that processor got the update. And I can honestly say right now, for me, I'm not experiencing the autofocusing issues that other people have, but I have seen videos and seen what other folks are experiencing. Yeah, it's kind of brutal. But you also have other cameras that have come out with enhancements in autofocus system technology, new stuff like the R1 and the R5 too, and their type of autofocusing that is doing something. What the Fuji one is using AI to kind of predict movement. they're using theirs in those cameras to predict where, say, a basketball player may go and stuff like that is just phenomenal. And from what YouTube reviewers have shown, it looks fantastic and looks to work like a charm, which is, again, a next level of autofocusing, which is fantastic. And I love where autofocusing has gone, even with Fuji cameras. Whatever camera you're using, if it has autofocus, it's a plus. It is a plus based off of the old film days and the start of DSLR and autofocusing lenses. We've come a long way, baby, right? So I have to ask this: when it comes to gear and it comes to autofocus, doesn't matter. And that, does it matter to have the best autofocus to go out and capture street photography images? I'm gonna keep the moment of silence going just for another second or two. So I have to honestly say, this is a cop-out answer. It depends. And it always has really depended on the style of photographer that you are and how you go about capturing your images. So we'll start with mirrorless cameras, right? That's where most brands are now. We've moved on from DSLRs to mirrorless, you know, and that autofocusing is, again, continuing to enhance with the new iterations of new cameras. And I honestly can say, when I first started in photography, almost, Jesus, now going on 9 years, taking pictures of my kids playing their sports and moving on from there, like some of us have done, and now even doing pro work and all this stuff. I love it. It's fantastic. It's a great hobby, and one that can even give me some money back to buy more gear. I honestly have to say, as I've gone through the iterations over time for the cameras with autofocus, it's gone to wherever that focus square is at. I need it to tell me that it's in focus to take the picture, to now, is it a plane? Is it a train? Is it a dog? Is it a cat? Is it a left eye, right eye, or the face? Can you give me the head? We've gone a long way in what a camera will autofocus on based on all the algorithms and AI processing. But does it matter for street photography? Again, cop-out answer, it depends. Because when I'm using my mirrorless camera, say my X100 and I'm out doing street photography, there are other factors that I have to consider to get the type of image that I want to get and the quality of the image that I want to get. I may not always want an image to be in focus. I might be shooting a blurred image. I might be shooting motion, and I want everything around that image to be blurred and showing motion. But to get there, I need to be able to make sure my exposure triangle is correct first, right? I gotta have the right exposure. I gotta have, and that helps with having the ISO set correctly, having the aperture set to where I get whatever it is I want in focus, whether that's a small sliver depth of field with a super wide aperture, or whether I'm closing the aperture down and getting more of the image in focus. And then I have to decide, am I freezing time or not with the shutter? Once I figure those things out, then I am looking at, okay, what's my subject? Okay, let me go ahead and use this focus selector switch and get my focus square where I need it to be so that my subject is in focus based on the depth of field, based on my ISO, and based on my shutter. I'm going to then capture the type of image that I want to capture. But do I care if it's autofocus is working or not? I can go full manual and do the same thing. I can use a film camera with a totally analog lens, or a mirrorless camera with an analog lens set to manual focus, or I can use an autofocusing lens and set it to manual focus and still get a in focused image. I can use zone focusing on my film camera. I can use zone focusing on my mirrorless camera or digital camera and still get an image in focus. So I have to ask again, does autofocus matter for street photography? And I have to say again, it depends. So for me, when autofocus means the most is when I'm going after a specific topic, subject, I should say, or style of shooting, we'll say. If I'm going after shooting automobiles, I'm probably gonna use that focus setting on my cameras because it's there to make sure that I'm focusing on the automobile and that the camera knows that I specifically want to focus on something. So to me, with the new focusing settings and that we can use or take advantage of, I should say, that's happening out there, I tend to use it when I'm specifically going after something I want the camera to target, right, and stay on. That's when it matters for me. It may vary for different people. If I want to go after this person and I want the camera to latch onto that person and that person only, I'm going to use eye autofocus, face, or whatever, depending on the camera brand that you use, to help make that happen at a higher percentage or hit rate, right? It's the same for all type of photography, but at the same time, I know that autofocus, as good as it's gotten, it isn't 100% perfect. If I have a large crowd of folks, and I'm taking images of people on the street, I'm not gonna want to use autofocus for face, eye, and all that stuff. It's too many people out there. It's gonna jump, it's gonna jump. I can maybe hopefully control my focus square, and then the autofocusing point in there can stay on something inside that focus square, hopefully, and so forth. But it can become a burden to use autofocus. I'm trying to capture the moment. I'm trying to get that image while the moment is happening. So how much do I want to fuss with autofocus? It all depends. If I want to make sure I'm going out and I'm going to only do a little challenge to myself and only capture people walking dogs and only capture the dog, right? I can put my Fuji on animal autofocus and hopefully it latches on just the dog and doesn't look at anything else, right? I'll put my camera in wide focus zone so the whole is using all focus points, and when a dog comes into the scene, bam, it catches a dog. Hopefully if a bird doesn't jump in there, it doesn't jump to the bird and then back to the dog. I can get the dog and get the image. It all depends. If this helps me capture the moment more efficiently, then it definitely is something I'm going to use. So the second part of that, and again, this is a cop-out answer, is it depends on the person again and what they're shooting. So autofocus matters to the person based on how they're shooting, how they want to create their images. And for me, it's when I definitely want to target on something when I'm doing my street photography, I'll use the different focus settings to do that. If not, sometimes it's just easier for me to use zone focusing because I want to capture the scene with the subject in it and not just blur out everything else. And I will go back and forth. So again, it matters to the person when they're using it, how they're using it. Now, as a gear snob, I can't say it doesn't matter how good it is, because the better the focusing algorithm, the better it's a focusing system, the better it is at helping you capture what you want to capture. And there's nothing that can be said about how frustrating one can get using an autofocus system that doesn't help them in that aspect. So make sure that if you are using autofocus for your street photography, let's hope that it's giving you what you need and that's why you're using it. Now, honest answer for me, I tend to don't use it that much. I just move the focus square where I need it, and generally I use a focus square big enough depending on what I'm doing, and to be able to capture the subject I want with the focus square and get that subject in focus. I generally will keep my focus square dead center unless I got the time to move it around and get a subject that's off center, because the framing that I have, I need that subject to be off center. So I will then move my focus center for that and capture that subject. So you guys let me know, how do you use autofocus, if you use it, in your street photography? How do you feel about the new cameras coming out, like the R1, the Canon R1 and the Canon R5, with their enhanced auto-focusing system with the predictive settings that it can be used for? I think it's like 3 different types of sports. And not only that though, just how much it enhanced their overall auto-focusing system. What do you think about the fact that it may depend? Do you agree it depends on the person? I do. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. When it comes to your gear and it comes to going out and doing street photography, what do you prefer? Manual focus or autofocus? Why? I'd love to know, and I'd love to feed it back to the community and have a further discussion on this one. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go into the Q&A part. And again, I usually, again, will in the Q&A either answer questions that have been posed to me by the community, again, via reaching out to me on the YouTube channel, reaching out to me on Instagram, and so forth. And if I will also pose questions to the community for you guys to think about, and of course, bring back to discuss to the community. And today's question is another one where I'm going to come to you guys with something. And the question is what are your ethics for street photography? What's your moral compass? What is your ethical dogmas that you follow when it comes to street photography? Are you just when everything that I can legally do, or maybe everything I can get away with is it? I'm gonna capture whatever I can. I don't care what it is. I don't care how raw it is. I don't care what people may think about how I captured it. What is your ethical dogmas, morality check when it comes to street photography? So for me, I can tell you I have a few, and they're there because of one, just personal reasons, and 2, legal reasons. You know, when it comes to the personal side of it, I don't like to take pictures of people in distress. I don't like to take pictures of people down on their luck. It's personal. It's not about me satisfying a urge to go out and capture the world in front of me. I'll go out and even get some raw photos, because to me those are raw photos. I'll get raw. I may capture one of the person who's yelling at another person, or the kid who dropped their ice cream, or the guy who slipped on some water. I mean, even then that might be a little mean, but I don't like to capture pictures of people in distress, to the point meaning down on their luck. So I don't capture pictures of people, homeless people. I won't capture a picture of somebody who is truly in distress, looks like they need help. I honestly feel at that instance, I'm gonna wanna help them out. I'm gonna ask them if they're okay. I'm gonna see if there's something I can do, even if it's donating a little money. You know, I back maybe last year or so, when I started the channel, had a video about street photography and the things they don't tell you about street photography. And in that video, one of the things I mentioned is dealing with homeless people, and how I go about doing that. You know, I look to help these guys out if I can. If I can give $1 or $2 to help them out, I will, because they're in distress, they're in need, and sometimes giving that $1 is the best thing that you can do for that person at that time. Maybe they can go eat. Yeah, I know. I grew up in New York, man. I've seen them. I know people like, hey, they're just going to take that money and go get some more drugs. I don't know. And that may be correct, but I tend to rather want to see if I can help a person that's in distress, down on their luck, more than capturing an image of them in that personal moment. So that's my one personal dogma. Another personal dogma of mine is that, and the second thing that I don't do ethically is I don't take pictures of children without a person's acknowledgement that I can. And what I mean by children, I'm talking, to me, kids that look to be younger than 10 years old, 12 years old. I as nice as it is to capture an image of a kid eating an ice cream or a kid enjoying a scene, I want to make sure that I have some type of verbal acknowledgement or visual acknowledgement from the parent that I can take that picture, because people can use things like that I don't know. It doesn't feel right. I don't want to feel like a creep. I don't want to be the creep with the camera taking pictures of kids, period, right? I don't even have to go far into why, the whole kid thing and images of strangers. I mean, there's reasons why that's a problem, right? From the pornographic nature of things, unfortunately, and misuse of content these days. I mean, it even go back to before I became a photographer, images being stolen and misused and used for other purposes, illegally and so forth, nefariously, and I look at the fact that, there's an innocence for me personally in a child that one should not take advantage of, period. Whether you want to call it bad mojo or and for me, it might be that. I won't do it unless I have consent. And again, I'm looking for verbal and visual consent from the parent that I can take the picture. And a lot of cases, I will look at my camera and look at the parent, and they'll give me the look or a smile, and they may, and I'll even also ask too, as well. I definitely will ask if I think a scene is looking nice with a kid, and I will definitely ask. Now again, both of these situations, you don't have to. It's legal in the U.S. to take those pictures in public. On private property, you need to ask permission from the private property owner. They may even want something for you to sign or pay to take pictures on private locations. So make sure, and this is the third thing, that when it comes to a person and wanting to make money with their photography, especially street photography, my personal issue is make sure you get consent. Make sure you do it the right way. I've seen folks take pictures of people where you can recognize that person, and they look to put it in situations where they make money off of it. I don't know how good those stocks websites are about following that. I assume that they are, but for me, in the legal side of it, the third one is make sure you understand the legal ramifications when you're out there doing your photography. Make sure you understand what you can and cannot do, especially when it comes to folks that may be looking at making money with their images. You need to know what you legally should be prepared to do to be able to make money with your images from street photography. You need to make sure that you're legally okay to be on this property, to be taking this image of this person. And that's generally what the problem is, right? When you're out in public, is taking images of people. In the US, I know the legal ramifications of it. But when I go to other countries, you best believe I'm gonna look it up and see what that is, so that I know I'm legally able to do what I'm gonna do with my images, how I'm gonna take my images and things like that. So those are my three ethical dogmas, my moral standing on street photography, and in some cases photography in general. What are yours? Hit me in the comments. Let me know what are the things you do that you know is not ethical for you, but it's legal, and you do it because it's legal. Or what are those things you won't do, regardless of whether it's legal? It's not part of your moral compass when it comes to you taking your images. So thank you guys. That is the cast. I want to say for sure thank you again to all the new subscribers. We picked up a lot of new subscribers over the past couple of weeks, so I'm happy about that. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a part of the community. Make sure, again, you let me know and comment and things like that. Hit me up in YouTube and message me. Hit me up in my Instagram and message me if there's some things that you would like to see me go ahead and do, not only for the podcast, but also for the YouTube channel when it comes to the type of photography I take on the YouTube channel, which is pretty much everything, mainly street photography, but I am learning birding. I am learning some other stuff, taking images of fast moving cars on a racetrack with the gear I have. So there you go. See you guys on the next cast. Enjoy your week.